we have some space left on our bus to the Meadowlands on Sunday to see the New York Football Giants, the struggling Giants, take on the, struggling Ravens, who've lost 2 in a row at home now, and, of course, fired Mark Trestman on Monday morning. We'll see what the Marty Morningwig era holds for Joe Flacco in the offense on Sunday. Meanwhile, we're going to go up to the great state of New Jersey, the Garden State, where I met Bruce Springsteen 2 weeks ago in Freehold, New Jersey. This guy covers the Giants for NJ.com. That's New Jersey Advanced Media. Some of you old-timers may call it the New York Star Ledger, as I do. He is Dan Duggan. You can follow his journey out on Twitter at Dan Duggan. That's DDuggan21 on Twitter. What's going on, Dan? Tough times up there in the Meadowlands for both of these teams, right?
Yeah. The state of New Jersey football is not doing so well right now.
Well, we're looking to bring it down even 2 more notches the next 2 weeks because we got the Giants this week and the Jets next week. I made my way up to the Meadowlands to see Bruce Springsteen a couple of times a few weeks ago on the tour, so I do know my way up there. What's going on with the Giants? I mean, I watched them play Sunday night. I don't know that anything stands out there other than, Eli Manning can win championships and Odell Beckham's a pretty good wide receiver. I'm trying to figure out where their other Pro Bowl players are and how they're going to win 9 or 10 games this year.
Yeah, well, that's certainly part of a problem. I mean, they did make some upgrades to the defense this offseason, and Damon Harrison has kind of been what was expected. Great run stuffer in the middle. That's pretty much what he does. And then Janoris Jenkins has been kind of a revelation. He didn't get quite the Josh Norman type hype, but he got a big contract this offseason. Even raised a few eyebrows, I feel like, but he's been probably their best defensive player. Picked off Aaron Rodgers twice on Sunday night. The other big free agent signing was Olivier Vernon, though, as a defensive end, and he hasn't produced just 1 sack in 5 games and not making the type of impact that they wanted when they gave him a huge contract. But so that's really the big name guys on the defense. Obviously, you still have Jason Pierre-Paul, and other than that, it's a lot of either journeymen or young players that aren't going to turn heads. But offensively is the much bigger problem, question mark, whatever you want to say, because this is an offense that has produced, it's like a top 10 offense in the past 2 seasons when Ben McAdoo was the offensive coordinator. You would think that the addition of rookie wide receiver Sterling Shepard, the return of Victor Cruz would jolt the offense, and for some reason it's going the other direction, and it's struggled mightily. There's a ton of reasons for that we can get into, but I would say if you want to say why is this team 2-3, it's actually more on the offense than the defense, which is not something people would have expected coming into the season.
Well, tell me about the offense and tell me about Odell Beckham. I mean, we only know him from afar. I know the funny haircut, and I understand he's a nice lad, but usually when the game starts, the game plan for other teams now is to get him off his game. I mean, obviously the Josh Norman incident last year was blown up. That's a New York incident gone nationwide. That seems to be part of the game plan now, right? To stir him up, to get in his head.
Yeah, absolutely, and why not do it? I mean, obviously, if you just try and line up kind of mano-a-mano, as the Giants offensive coordinator Mike Sullivan said last week, you're probably going to lose that matchup. I mean, no one can deny the guy's talent, but he has shown that he has some kryptonite towards if you can get in his head, you can get him off his game, and obviously Josh Norman exploited that, but you saw it against the Vikings 2 weeks ago on Monday Night Football when he had basically his worst game of his career, 3 catches for 23 yards. Xavier Rhodes from the Vikings kind of drew him into a taunting penalty. So yeah, that's certainly the thing that can get him off his game. It's probably gotten a little bit overblown, as we're kind of want to do in the media, especially a guy like him who is such a lightning rod and has been just in the attention, been in the spotlight ever since that catch his rookie year against the Cowboys, that a remarkable one-handed catch. So pretty much everything he does draws a heightened level of scrutiny. But he was on his best behavior on Sunday night against the Packers. They certainly made an effort to get him the ball. I think that's been one of the biggest problems is they've just let defenses take him out of the game, and that's just not something you can do when you have a once-in-a-generation talent like that. You need to find a way to get him the ball. They did try on Sunday night, but a combination of a really leaky offensive line and Eli Manning being uncharacteristically inaccurate prevented him having a big game. He ended up with 5 catches for 56 yards, and he made a great touchdown catch late where he was able to keep his feet in bounds in the back of the end zone. But still has not had that impact that everyone expected that he showed in his first 2 seasons. I mean, this is a guy who had literally the most productive first 2 seasons anyone's ever had as an NFL wide receiver. So it's been a little surprising that he hasn't been able to get going, 5 games into the season, and still kind of waiting for that Odell Beckham type of game.
Well, you mentioned Xavier Rhodes, and I guess even for Josh Norman last year, no one had heard of Josh Norman until he started fighting with Odell Beckham. Everyone had heard of Odell Beckham, right? Xavier Rhodes kind of making a name for himself. Look, I don't know that there's any shame in losing to the Packers and losing to the Vikings in back-to-back weeks, and sort of squeaking out the wins that they did earlier in the season against a little bit of a depleted Dallas squad, as well as the New Orleans Saints. But, for them the rest of the year, what needs to go right here? I mean, is it really just about them getting Beckham the ball? Or is it about some sort of continuity in the offense that you've pointed out? Part of Ben McAdoo getting this gig was that he worked well with these guys. They liked him last year. That's part of the reason they threw Coughlin off the boat, right?
Yeah, no, I mean, Odell Beckham's really only just part of the issues, and again, he, like I said, he's on his best behavior on Sunday night, and had a fairly productive game. There's much deeper issues. The offensive line, even last season when they had so much success moving the ball, scoring, the offensive line was a question mark, and they came back with the same 5 guys, which definitely didn't sit well with a lot of fans, and it felt like there was a need for an upgrade. And the fans' concerns have been validated here because the offensive line was okay the first 3 or 4 games. It really got exposed against the Packers. I mean, the Packers were decimated in the secondary, not a good pass defense, and yet Eli Manning couldn't even top 200 yards. He was constantly under pressure. The tackles especially, and especially left tackle Eric Flowers, who was a top 10 pick last year, really struggled. And then there's definitely a trickle down from that where Eli's getting a little bit happy feet and feeling pressure that isn't always there, and that's leading to some inaccurate passes, as I mentioned earlier. I mean, he heads them open receivers and throws you just, point blank, you have to make them. If you're an NFL quarterback and he hasn't been making them, so it's definitely a lot bigger than Odell Beckham. I mean, the running game is inconsistent. They don't really try to run it a ton because this is a West Coast offense where the short passes are going to kind of be your running game a lot of times, but there's just no rhythm. Teams are taking away a lot of the underneath passes, and they just don't have time to get down the field, and there's a lot of safety help on Odell to take away those big plays that he's made. So, I mean, I can go on and on. There's a lot of issues on this offense, and obviously we've been documenting them, and it's surprising, again, with the talent they have and with the same system that's been successful, that there's been so many struggles so far this season.
He is Dan Duggan. He covers the New York Giants. We'll see them on Sunday. We still have some seats left on our bus. If you want to jump on that, toss me an email, nasty@WNST.net, or click on that trips tab at WNST.net. You can follow Dan's journey out on Twitter at DDuggan21 during the game on Sunday. And, you mentioned Flowers, and, when the post-game stuff comes out on Twitter and I see players shoving media members and whatnot, I know you're a guy in locker rooms. I'm a guy in locker rooms. I've been doing this for 32 years, watching the NFL for 21 years since it came back to Baltimore. That's not the sort of thing that franchises like to see, and the emotion part of it is tough. But then there comes, hey, you play in New York, you got drafted high, big things are expected out of you. Part of 2 and 3 can't be you shoving reporters after the game.
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, you have a few decades on me, but even I've been doing this for 10 years or so. I've never seen it. I mean, and nothing. I mean, you see on SportsCenter will show those every once in a while, the explosive press conferences, or everyone's seen like Ryan Leaf blowing up on that reporter. I guess that's like 20 years ago now. I might be dating myself, but
I was around then, by the way, too. That dates me.
But never seen anything physical. I mean, and it wasn't the way you even expect to see it based on some of those kind of famous blow-ups where the ESPN reporter just came over, hadn't even asked a question. I mean, clearly Flowers has, an issue with the reporter. I'm relatively new to the beat, so I don't know all the backstory. I mean, listen, the guy's play has been warranted, criticism has been warranted, so I don't know if there's any cheap shots in his mind, but you can't be just that thin-skinned that being criticized is going to make you do that because, again, he hasn't lived up to what you expect from the top 10 picks. So,
I find NFL players to be really impervious to that, Dan. I mean, I've been doing this a long time. I find baseball players to be sissies, about what's said about them. Football players, they sit in these meetings and their coaches chew the hell out of them. He's going to have a hard enough time on Monday morning in the coaches' meeting. Dealing with the media is usually pretty easy, quite frankly. That's one of the things about football players. When they screw up, they're going to be hearing about it all week inside their own building. So it's not like a little piece of criticism from a 5'8" reporter is going to, hurt their feelings. You know what I mean? That part of the NFL. Saragusa once said to me, "Hey, we carry our own bags around here. We all, slop in the mud and we beat each other up. It's a physical game. Usually, guys don't get their feelings hurt. If you're getting your feelings hurt by words in the NFL, you're probably in the wrong business, man."
Yeah, no, I mean that's a great point. And again, because it's so rare, you don't see it. Most guys are able to control their emotions. I do think there's probably an element to the social media world now, where I think a lot of players, even if they might not want to admit it, they're searching Twitter though. I mean, you'll see times where a guy who doesn't even follow you will make reference to a comment you made. It's like, well, how'd you see that? You clearly were going out seeking it. So I think there is a little more of that in this younger generation, because again, this is right after the game. So, I have a feeling he must have seen something, Jordan Renan, who's the ESPN reporter, he must have seen something Jordan tweeted during the game and the 5 to 10 minutes after back in the locker room, because otherwise I don't know why he would have been kind of so hot and bothered. Again, because it wasn't one of these situations where the reporter was goading him and really pressing him with tough questions. And, it was immediately when he walked over, Flowers reacted and basically told him to leave the locker. And, the reporter just said, hey, I'm just trying to do my job. And went back and forth like that for a few seconds, and then when a 6'6", 330-pound guy gives you a shove, that tends to end those situations, because I think Jordan sized up the situation and said, okay, I'm going to leave. But yeah, no, it was like you said. I mean, you've been doing it longer than I have, but it's really kind of an unprecedented situation. Most of these guys know the deal. I mean, they don't love to have us there asking tough questions after a loss, but they were there when they win, so it's just kind of how it works. You have to stand up there. I mean, hey, you don't have to like the question, you don't have to be friendly, but you just have to draw the line with any sort of physical contact.
Dan, how's Eli Manning doing? I've always sensed this frustration from him over the last 5 years. Obviously, the team hasn't made the playoffs. I still see him as a very competent guy, and obviously he's getting smarter, not dumber as this thing's going along, but he's also getting older. That offensive line in protecting and running the ball, hey, we fired our offensive coordinator, as you know, around here on Monday. Things aren't rosy around here for our Super Bowl MVP either.
Yeah, no, it's a little hard to explain, because, I mean, ever since Ben McAdoo came in, Eli's kind of had a rejuvenation. His last 2 years have been two of his best seasons. So, again, there was no sign that there was going to be anything but that coming into this season. He looked good in training camp, but I don't know. It's just something's missing. I think, again, a lot of it does, track back to the offensive line, and we're really trying to figure it out really as we go here, because no one wants to say, oh, is Eli Manning slipping? But yeah, you're getting up in age. There's obviously going to be some drop off at some point, but I don't know if that's what's happening now, because again, it's small sample size. It's 5 games, and even the first couple of games, he threw for a lot of yardage. They just couldn't get in the end zone, so it ends up looking a little bit worse. But he's clearly still capable of making the throws and leading an offense. But it's definitely something we're trying to kind of put our finger on. I think a lot of it definitely stems from the offensive line and just the offense as a whole. Being out of rhythm, he and his receivers not clicking the way that they have in the past couple of seasons. And then Eli, there's a little bit of this to him his whole career. I mean, it's always a little bit of a roller coaster. I mean, for a guy who's won a couple of Super Bowls, won a couple of Super Bowl MVPs. It's not like it's always rosy with him, though. I mean, he's capable of going out and just laying an egg every now and then and making some throws that make you scratch your head. And right when you want to count him out, he bounces back with, some tremendous clutch performances. So just a little bit of Eli experience. And, that's why I don't think anyone's ready to jump ship, because he certainly could go out on Sunday and, throw for 350 yards and 4 touchdowns and look like a Super Bowl MVP. So, a little early to really make a definitive judgment on what's going wrong, but again, I just think a lot of the problems stem from some concerns about the pass protection, and I think with any quarterback, that's going to have an effect on you.
Ravens have had also trouble getting to quarterbacks. The Giants have also had a similar problem. Spent a lot of money on Olivier Vernon. Everyone I've talked to this week about the Giants has mentioned his name as some sort of disappearing act through the first 5 games.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it's been a disappointment, because obviously these guys, when you get paid $85 million, you're going to be judged on sacks. I know people like to say, sacks isn't the end-all, be-all, and I think there's truth to that, but it's not like he's been this monster disruptive force who's just missing getting there. I mean, he's been pretty quiet in the pass rush. He's actually much better against the run than I think his reputation said coming in. And they have a good run defense. And
Suggs is the same way, by the way. I mean, people talk about Suggs sacking the quarterback. Suggs' gift was stopping the run, and when he was missing last year, and that's also been something that's been slipping this year, that we forget that part of the defensive ends. We judge them by sacks. We should judge them by stuffing the run as well and keeping the ball from going to the outside and setting an edge.
Right, yeah, and then again, Vernon's been good at that, and he's also dealing with a wrist injury that defensive coordinator Steve Spagnuolo said last week is affecting him more than he's letting on. I mean, Vernon's a pretty quiet guy, and certainly not someone who's going to complain. I mean, he said it's a little beast thing. It's clearly more than that, because actually the one sack he got a couple weeks ago, he came up holding the wrist. So that's going to affect a guy who relies on using his hands so much in the trenches, obviously. But again, it's a bottom line business. Everyone's banged up. People are going to look at the fact of making $85 million on this contract he signed, and the production's just not there. So they need more from him. Again, he's done all right in the run, but, you need to get to the quarterback, and the same goes for really the rest of the defensive line. I mean, the defensive line has 2 sacks in 5 games. I mean, that's just not going to get it done. Like I said, the defense has stood up pretty well, but you just put a lot of pressure on yourselves when they really the interceptions Jenkins had were the first 2 takeaways they've had all season on defense. Again, they've had 4 sacks, only 2 of them by the defensive line. You're just asking for your defense to do a lot if you're not going to make some game-changing plays. You got to just constantly be bending but not breaking, and eventually that type of formula is going to catch up to you, I think.
Yeah, I mean, we just lost to the Redskins. You guys lost to the Redskins a couple weeks ago. That's not a good feeling, but certainly the Cowboys are playing better football in that division than anybody thought possible without Romo. A loss here by the Giants to 2-4 would really put them, in a massive, massive hole to be thinking about winning the NFC East, right?
Yeah, I mean, I remember when, the last week or 2 of the preseason when the Bradford trade happened and the Romo injury happened, you started looking at this and, oh, man, this is the road's looking pretty good. And then all of a sudden, we're 5 games into the season, and every team in the NFC East is probably playing better than expected, probably except for the Giants. So they're probably lucky they got the Cowboys when they did, when it was Dak Prescott's first start, because he's certainly rolling. Philly, I think, is much better than anybody expected. Obviously, Carson Wentz has looked very poised for a rookie quarterback. And Washington looked like they were really trending in the wrong direction, started 0-2, and I think this is a game that, winning at Minnesota, winning at Green Bay was going to be a tough task regardless. But the Giants had Washington at home in Week 3, a chance to really bury them early in the season, and really gave that game away. So that's the one that hurts the most. And as you said, now everyone in the division is winning. At 2-3, the Giants are dead last in the division. You just can't give up too much ground this early because, teams are going to start pulling away and it's going to be too late. So, I think you look at this little stretch here with a home game against the Ravens, and then they play the Rams in London before their bye. They got to get a win or 2 here, or else they're going to be in deep trouble.
Yeah, much like the Ravens, they play a bunch at the end on the road against tough teams. They also have a month where they have home cooking after the trip to L.A. next week. They share the bye that the Ravens have, then Philadelphia, Cincinnati, and Chicago all at home. That's going to be a time to make some hay there in November. Dan Duggan covers all things for the New York Giants at NJ.com and New Jersey Advanced Media and the Newark Star-Ledger. Been a great guest, Dan. We'll see you up in the press box on Sunday. We're bringing some Purple Rowdies up there on Sunday on our bus trip, so we'll see we get done up there at the MetLife Stadium. I might as well just get a cot and stay all week for the Jets, but I am going to come home and try to watch a little baseball here.
Gotcha. All right. Well, sounds good. Thanks for having me.
Great having you on, Dan Duggan, Duggan21. That's Duggan 21 out on Twitter. You can find me out in the Buy a Toyota Audio Vault 24 hours a day from anywhere in the world on your mobile device by downloading the TuneIn radio app. We come in crystal clear. Our morning newspaper ships at 7 a.m. each and every morning to your email inbox. It's free of charge and powered up by Planet Fitness and PlanetFitness.com. We're at Buffalo Wild Wings and Owings Mills every Monday night for best seat in the house, as well as our Blazing Wing Challenge. We had a hell of a challenge on Monday night. Nice and slow. We had a photo finish, quite frankly, on Monday for that bad Monday Night Football game we were watching with the Carolina Panthers and the Tampa Bay Bucks. We will be on Thursday night at Greenmount Station in Hampstead. We're going to be joined by Alex Lewis, who was going to be with us 2 weeks ago, but he's going to come out this week, and Zach Orr, who's been leading the team in tackles, playing some great football on the defensive side. He's also a loquacious sort, good guy. A couple good guys going to be joining us at Greenmount Station in Hampstead. That is Thursday night. We'll be swabbing for the Bone Marrow Registry, and for There Goes My Hero as well. Come see us in Carroll County. Last but not least, if you're on the WNST text service on Monday morning, you know. 9:33, your text game. Mark Trestman fired. Marty Morningwing hired or promoted. And you get all that courtesy of Coons Ford Security Boulevard. Dennis Kolatzis will be here on Thursday driving you home from 3 until 5. It is the SSV on WNST and our best service, the WNST Tech Service, brought to you by Coons Ford of Security Boulevard. We are WNST.net, AM 1570, and WNST Taos in Baltimore, and we never stop talking Baltimore sports.